Welcome, one and all, to the Success Curious podcast. It's your boy Andy here, and my word, have we got an absolute rock star on the show today? And I'm saying that wholeheartedly because, my word, this individual hasn't just been lighting up the FMCG sector, so the fast moving consumer goods sector from Australia. She's taking on the world. She has lots of people saying probably that she's too young to do half of this shit. And she's above all, which is the most important thing. And we won't say it's just for ladies because, we won't judge here.
No.
But she's keeping all your bits and bobs stuck behind your clothes, which is very, very important in this day and age. Annabel Hay is the owner and founder of Clutch Glue, which is, as I just mentioned there, it is a adhesive that allows your clothes and your tops and all that sort of stuff to stay stuck to your skin so that things don't drop out and flop out and all the bits and bobs. And it is going bananas. She's just about to launch into the UK. She's taken the world by storm, and she's been on the likes of Shark Tank and whatnot as well. So she's got incredible amounts of exposure. And I tell you what, the confidence in this chick is undeniable. And I say confidence because, my gosh, has she got some substance to go with the style, man. She's got a brain to back it up. Annabel, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for your kind words. It's very generous and definitely not something that I hear every day. So it's very flattering. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'll tell you what, pleasure is all mine. Look, pleasure is absolutely all mine that you're entertaining a simple individual like myself. Now, Annabelle, I cannot wait to dig into the story that is yours. Before we get stuck into it, because I'm trying really hard to keep the reins on my excitement a little bit, if I'm honest. Give us a bit of an MO. So the people that don't know who you are, give us a bit of an MO because team, I've known of Annabelle for a long time, obviously from Shark Tank to various news publications. She's just been labeled as one of the 30 under 30 in terms of influential voices, names, and operators in Asia by Forbes. No small feat. Annabelle, give us a bit of an MO as to your journey up to now.
Wild. I mean, yeah, the Forbes 30 under 30 thing, though, that's just like absolutely crazy. It's funny, I like think of my success, something like it just doesn't feel like me a lot of the time. Like I feel like there's kind of just this character or this alter ego that just like all of these amazing things happen to. It's like quite interesting when good things happen to you. And like a lot of the time, you're just kind of like, is this really happening? Like, is that for real? Because like, is this the same person that like falls down the stairs once a day because I'm super clumsy? Just like things like that where you're just like, the duality of man is just like, so the boundaries are particularly far apart. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But yeah, for anyone that perhaps hasn't come across my journey before, I'm sorry if I have infiltrated your algorithm as well. Once I pop up on your screen, you literally can't get rid of me. So thank you, algorithm. But I'm also sorry if I am, taking over your every day. But I'm Annabelle. I'm the founder and CEO and owner of Clutch Glue. I invented and patented a glue. It took me 4 years to invent and patent this glue, which is a glue alternative to fashion tape. So instead of using double-sided tape to stick your clothes to your skin, I invented a glue that does the same thing, but far better. It's stronger, it's sweat resistant, but water soluble, sort of wash out of your clothes when you're done. Won't seep through your clothes. It's hypoallergenic. It's vegan. It's palm oil free, and the best of all, it's actually made. The packaging's made of 100% recycled plastics that is then 100% recyclable. So unlike single-use waste with fashion tape, you can just make a far more sustainable and effective switch to Clutch Glue. So, yeah, as I mentioned, it took me 4 years to invent and patent this glue. I did not quit my day job as a construction manager during that time because I knew that I really wanted to hone my craft and make this the absolute best solution to anything. I didn't want to rush a product that was half-hearted. I wanted this to be completely thought through, and time and preparation is your best friend when it comes to the R&D process of creating a first of its kind great product.
So many questions flooding through now. It's so many questions. I'm going to come back to this alter ego thing. We're going to come back to that. So we'll just
Sure.
one for the now. Tell me though, and I know this is probably a classic question you get asked the whole stack of times. Why? What made you start the process that for
Yeah.
at the start of those 4 years?
What was that moment?
Did your boobs fall out at some stage?
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was like I was a construction manager for a long time. I was working full time as a construction manager from age 18 and one day. And I was also doing a full-time construction management degree on the side. So I was literally full-time work, full-time uni, straight into it. And I was also at college at UNSW. And I was obviously like any young adult that had just way too much disposable income. I was spending all of my money on clothes and clubbing, as you can imagine. And there was one fateful night where a bunch of my friends and I, we wanted to go to a club called Chinese Laundry. For anyone that's been there before, you know that it is like the sweatiest, like little dungeon in Darling Harbour. And I'm literally just over 5 foot tall. And if I raise my hands, I can touch the ceiling. So like that's how sweaty and small it is down there. And I remember my friends and I, we were all getting ready, and it took me about 45 minutes to fashion tape myself into this jumpsuit that I was wearing. It had this big, long, plunging neckline. I couldn't quite get the placement right. And so I was like ripping it off, and it was ripping my skin off. It was ripping my fake tan off. And then all of these single use strips were just like going in the bin. And it took me literally a full packet of fashion tape strips to get it right and the placement right on my chest. And I was pretty frustrated, but then I was just excited that I'd finally, overcome some adversity there with the fashion tape. And I was like, all right, we're ready to go out, guys. So anyway, we go to Chinese Laundry, and we're there to see a really small DJ at the time. His name was Dom Dollar. There were maybe 30 people that there. It was like $20 at the door to go and see him, like that. All of my friends and I, we were like, this guy is so good. Like, he's such a good DJ. Like, we really need to go and see him. So anyway, we go and see him. I was an absolute Dom OG fan. And then I arrive at Chinese Laundry, and within about 3 seconds, I start to sweat, and it all comes off. And I just flash the entire club, including Dom. And in a moment of sheer frustration and embarrassment, I was like, wouldn't it be so much easier if I could just glue myself into my clothes? And then I was like, oh, actually, it's not a bad idea. And then
how many drinks in were you?
I think maybe like a bottle of wine at this point, definitely.
Like,
So
best ideas.
yeah, like, and not good one at that. Like, definitely some goon, I'd say. Perhaps straight out of the sack, who knows? And who anything went at that point in time. And anyway, I go home, and then the next day I like woke up and I was like, that's still a really good idea. But then I was like, surely I've never had an original experience in my life. Surely somebody else has thought about this before. So I started doing a bunch of research on the market, and I was like, there are eyelash glues, there are wig glues, there are like gymnastic glue things. And I was like, there was nothing on the market that did what I wanted it to do, which was something that I could use on all fabrics, that wouldn't ruin my clothes, that would wash out of my clothes, that are hypoallergenic, that are palm oil free, that are totally sustainable. And I was like, you know what? We can get men to the moon. I can invent glue. And so then I set out what then ended up being a 4-year journey to invent and patent a glue, all from Chinese Laundry and Dom Dollar. Thank you very much.
Now, it's an amazing story. Now, it's needless to say, and just for clarity, you haven't got any sort of chemistry degree. You've not got any sort of engineering degree, and none of that sort of materials and engineering or nothing like that, right? So you would not have the first idea, like the composition of glue in the first place, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, right?
No idea.
So where the hell did you start?
Well, like any construction manager, I was like, I don't need to know all the answers, but I know I can hire somebody who will. All you need is money and to delegate. And that's exactly what every business person does and will tell you. And so I was like, you know what? I know that UNSW get people in to do research projects. So I emailed the chemical engineering department, and I was like, hey, do you have somebody who like has some capacity to maybe do like a little project on the side? And for a long time, they kind of ignored me, or they were like, nah, like probably not. And then one fateful day, I just kind of like kept emailing. I was pretty persistent about the whole thing. And then one day they came back to me and they were like, okay, this guy's like just come in from the States. He's here for a couple of years and he's inventing fire retardants. And I was like, well, okay, do you reckon he should invent the glue for me? And they were like, I don't know, like jump on a call with him and see. So anyway, I got in touch with him. I sent him an NDA. We jumped on a Teams call and I was like, hey, so I want like a sweat resistant water soluble glue, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, and I was like, do you think you can do it? And he was like, well, but like, why would you want a water soluble glue? And I was like, well, the details don't matter. Like, can you do it or not? And he was like, yeah, I can do it, I guess. So it ended up taking him a year to invent this glue formula. But the contract stated that it was my IP and my formula. And once you've invented what I want you to invent, that's it. I pay you your sum of money and this is it. You're done. And you sign the deed and it's my company's ownership. Thank you very much. And he said, sure, okay, whatever. And so he did that. It took him a year to invent it, and then I paid him out. I paid him $35,000 was the agreement. At the time, that was like an eye-watering sum of money for me to pay for and bootstrap out of my own pocket. But alas, I did it. And then with that formula, I then toddled over to a patent office and I went, hey, I've got this invention. I've got this glue. Can you patent it for me? And they were like, yeah, actually, I think that this is patentable. And yeah, a couple of years later, now it's fully globally patented formula.
Wowee, man.
Mm.
That's so cool. And it just goes to show, right? I mean, we quit on the regular that there's this wondrous website called Google that can tell you a whole bunch of answers to a whole bunch of questions.
Amazing, isn't it?
AI-based platforms and all this sort of shit that can go one step further. And
yeah, ChatGPT was not a thing when.
no, it was not
so,
then. No, it was not then.
no.
But it's just fascinating that you were so one-eyed that this idea, this problem needed a solution, right? And it was based on personal experience,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible. Now, I've got to ask you the question that we always ask all of our guests, because I'll get shot by my editor if I go too far into the episode and not let him know where it is. We all have our own definitions of success, Annabel, right? And I believe it comes in a few elements: success, connection, influence, and happiness. And they're all in a bit of an ecosystem where one can't survive without the other. I am fascinated to hear about what your definition of a successful human is.
Yeah, it's something that is actually sort of front of mind for me at the moment, because someone that I respected very dearly, my grandfather, passed away actually a few weeks ago, and he lived a very beautiful, long life. It's, sort of a peaceful, nice death. So no trauma to dump here. However, I remember when getting the news a few weeks ago, and then as a family, we were all obviously it makes you very introspective. And he was just the most honorable person. You hear any story that anybody spoke about him, they all said the same thing, which was that he was incredibly honest and he left people better than when he found them. And that to me is something that I just think is now my definition of success, is just somebody who is honest and ethical and fair. And I think that now I'm in this business game and I come across a lot of people that are absolutely wonderful. And occasionally I come across some people that are not quite so wonderful. And I find that if you're trying to leapfrog people, if you're trying to get one up on someone or always try and be even with somebody, that's actually only ever going to hurt you. I think that if you just act with integrity and honesty, everything kind of falls into place around you. And even when it is, a difficult decision to make, I think that just making decisions that align with your core values is something that will only hold you in good stead and will make you a successful person. And whether your definition of success is financial success or just having, freedom, having a legacy to leave behind, like whatever it might be. And that's something that I'm also still trying to figure out myself, as I am still quite young. But I just know that all of those things, whatever I want to achieve in this life and whatever success metric I want to get to, the only way that I'm going to get to it is by acting honorably and with integrity. I think too, something that comes a part of that, and it's something that we really struggle with in Australia, is tall poppy syndrome and also just gatekeeping information. That's something that I am not a believer in at all. If I can even just help somebody unlock a door, get a foot in the door, whether it's sending an intro to a retailer that like, hey, you know, this brand's really cool. I'd love to send an intro or whatever it might be. I'm so happy to make those concessions because I know what goes around comes around, and it's nothing on me to bring success to other people. And I think that there's plenty of success to go around. And it's not something that we should ever gatekeep as well. So that to me is my definition of success, is essentially leaving people better than when you found them.
Really interesting that isn't it weird how, and I've said this on a few episodes, how it's weird slash shit that we humans have to have something significantly bad go on for us to hit the introspective button,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it rubbish how it has to happen. But a very, very similar story with my old man and me in terms of understanding, what is satisfaction, what is chasing satisfaction, and all this sort of
Totally.
stuff, right?
Totally.
Interested to hear though, because I went through a very similar process. When the house felt a lot quieter. You find yourself in that moment. Um, what were your sort of thought processes, beliefs around that sort of value set identity piece prior to that introspection going through your body and your brain and your heart? What was
I
it
think
prior?
I think that I think that I always knew that, and this came just out of like working in construction, where my perception of that industry was there's going to be heaps of scary men that are on site and they're going to tell this young little girl to, go and rack off, was like kind of what I thought it would be.
Mm.
Um, that never happened to me. And I think that it's one of those things where I was like, because I just treated other people with respect. We're all humans. We all have shit going on. We've all got families. We've all got grief, we've all got relationships, all of these things where I'm like, we're human at the end of the day. And I feel like technology has kind of dehumanized us a lot. And it's something that I just need to continue to remind myself that, like, when I'm negotiating with somebody, whether it was on a construction site or whether I'm negotiating with somebody on a contract, it's like, it's not my way or the highway. Let's find a mutual ground where we're both happy with what we're putting on the table and what we're offering. And I think that is so critical to have a long lasting relationship with somebody, whether it's a partnership, whether it's, somebody doing your tiling. Like, I don't really care. But like, the fact of the matter is your principles don't change. And just being fair and reasonable and respecting everybody will only get you further in this life, because everybody plays a small part in that success. There's not like these just like big ticket negotiations that are the ones that you should pay attention to. That's not true. Everybody plays a part in my business and helping me get to where I have been. And that should also be vice versa. I should also be a part of their journey in one way or another to help them get to where they need to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think possibly what it's done is it's really, because the although it's 4 years to get the glue sorted and patented and out and about and whatnot.
Yeah.
It, respect to it's been a rapid rise, relatively speaking, right? And
Totally.
I'm sure there would have been for yourself, because your sister's part of the foundership as well. I'm
Yeah.
sure there would have been a number of sort of crossroads slash sliding but door moments where easy route is a temptation, there versus harder route, which is more value aligned and whatnot. I'm sure you would have had a few of them already.
Totally. And like, these are things too that I have all been a part of the learning process. Like, I'm far better at now just like knowing what a commercial contract should look like with a retailer versus when I first did it. And like, there are so many things that I probably would have pushed back on, but I was too afraid of. But like, that's kind of the whole journey. Like, when you have these like sliding door moments of like, shouldn't I? And it's just like, you know what? Like, if you do it, at least you're not going to fail. You're just going to learn. And that's incredibly important to then give your business longevity. And I think that if you just like never in your head you just like never give yourself failure as an option. I think you'll find that just kind of mindset shift actually empowers you to be a bit braver and take some more risks, and then hopefully, it pays off.
Now, I put a pin in your comment around alter ego, right?
Yes.
And you did let slip that you are clumsy.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
I think I do things too quickly. That's probably what I'd say. Unpacking the dishwasher, it's like, doing my washing and things like that. It's like there's just always shit going everywhere. I should probably just be a little bit more careful with some mundane tasks, as they say.
yeah, you kind of put the dishes away, and you're already thinking about the next three things you've got to do, right?
Exactly right. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
fair. Now, I really one of the real main reasons as to why I wanted you on this show is because of this whole concern around the I can see is a huge concern, but it's growing in popularity in from a recognition point of view, growing concern about the lack of space of time of freedom for individuals to understand their true identity. I think that the reason why we're seeing a lot more protests kicking around and all the rest of it is because Gen Z. There's been loads of studies to show that Gen Zs in particular, they really feel that they need something greater than themselves in order to give them validation in their own identity, which is why there's more protests kicking off. And their intentions are great in the main. I'm confident of that. But show them a map of Palestine and they couldn't tell you where it is. But
Yeah.
you though, you are an outlier in a most wonderful way. Is someone who has, whether it is through upbringing, whether it is through circumstance, whatever the case may be, you are being put into a position where the product has certainly become a part of your identity, right?
Big time.
In a
Yeah.
big way.
People literally stop me in the street and they say, "Are you
Say,
Clutch?"
are you Clutch Glue Chick? Right,
Yeah.
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 So I'm really interested to hear about your perception, your thought process around your own identity, because you
Mm,
mentioned before that you talked about, you sometimes wonder, is this really happening to me? Like,
yeah.
is this an alter ego thing where it's like clutch glue woman or whatever it is, like some superhero chick type thing?
Yeah.
Um, um, Talk to us about this. Like, what challenges have you had, right? Because with alter ego, obviously, the obvious thing is imposter syndrome, because you mentioned Tall Poppy as well. And that all comes into this topic of imposter syndrome, right?
Sure.
And you would have had a load of big bad corporations saying, no, 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 little girl, you just stay in your lane, sort of thing. Leave that to the
Totally.
girls, sort of thing, right?
Totally.
Talk to us about this. Like, what challenges have you had around identity for yourself?
Well, I'd say also just like to do with imposter syndrome. It's actually something that I like do not struggle with at all. And that's a very conscious decision. That's like not something that I was just born with, that I just like didn't have imposter syndrome. That was something that I realized and learnt along the way, where I was just like, well, who are you to tell me that I'm like not allowed to be in this room? Because as far as I'm aware, like we're all meant to be here. And ultimately, men don't get it. And I was like, well, if men don't get it, then like I'm choosing not to get it as well, because all it does is get in the way.
Mm.
So for me, that was a very conscious decision to just like literally put it to bed. Like I just like fit like it almost, that movie Inside Out.
Yes.
And it's such a good movie. And like
It's a clever movie.
it's really good. Like to understand like your own psychology. It's like actually super interesting. And like I literally like visualize these different like negative emotions that I get like through the way. And I try and like literally like I imagine myself like picking it up and like putting it away or like destroying it. And I find that actually just like really helps. As woo woo or as like simple as that might seem, that's all I need to like, really put some emotions away. So yeah, I think imposter syndrome, get rid of it. It's just so not useful. And also what it does is just make you nervous and then like not get the most out of why you were in a certain place. I never, ever, ever want to leave a room regretting that I like didn't say something or didn't have a conversation with somebody because I was fearful. Fearful of what? The worst thing that can happen is that somebody's going to say no or maybe laugh at me. I don't care. Like, if that's meant to happen, then that's meant to happen. But 99% of the time, the answer is normally met with a yes and a very enthusiastic relationship that then sparks from there. So I just think that like that's something that I really want to inspire other people to do. I think people, especially when they're first starting out with their journey, definitely lack that kind of confidence. They're not as exposed to being in this room with all of these like heavyweights. So again, it's a muscle that you need to grow, but like continuing to throw yourself in the deep end and feel uncomfortable is only going to help you in the long term. So I think that that's like really helped gain my own confidence, my own identity, and how I want to be perceived by other people, definitely. I also want to be perceived as somebody, though, that is approachable and helpful. Like, I really love that people feel like they can stop me in the street and be like, hi, and have a conversation with me. Like, I don't know you from a bar of soap, but the fact that I give that impression that I am friendly and you can ask me for something is all I've ever wanted in this life, is to be able to share my knowledge with people, help people, inspire people, get them to where they want to be. And so if that's a power that I hold, regardless of whether that was something that I did intentionally or not, is something that I really hold dear to myself and want to continue doing.
I love that. All I've ever wanted is to be someone that people can approach. That's mega, man. I love that. But why, right? So, what is the difference then? Let me challenge you on this. What is the difference then between that whole notion of, oh, is this shit really happening to me?
Yeah.
And imposter syndrome. Where's the defining line? Where's the difference for you?
I think that sometimes, when you kind of, it's, there's like, dopamine hits that you get every single day from just like normal things, right? That just like make me happy. Like, for instance, I baked a cake yesterday and I was fucking stoked about it. Just like that was so exciting.
Was it any good?
It was amazing. I cooked an orange poppy seed cake and it just felt like my childhood again. Like my mum used to make that as my birthday cake every year, just like things like that.
Did you get someone else's opinion on this? Was this just
I did. I invited my friend over to come and eat the cake with me, and
We
she
need
did.
some social proof on this cake. Carry on, by the way. Yes, yes, yes.
I've got some over there. I'll show you after this.
Good.
And it's things like that. But when you get the Forbes 30 under 30 thing, or when my Shark Tank episode went out, and you're just there, like, I don't think my brain like knows actually what to do with this dopamine. Like, this is not a whole other level of like achievement, which is not your everyday achievement. Like, this is a big feather in the cap moment. And that, I think, just takes months and months and months of digesting the kind of power that has been, instilled with you. And like, what am I going to do with that? Like, now that I've done this, now that I'm in Forbes 30 under 30, now that I've like been on Shark Tank and been deemed, the best pitch of all time, like, I feel now there's a duty of care that I need to do with those achievements to be able to give back to somebody else. And so it's kind of just digesting that and like, what am I going to do now that I've achieved that? And like, what's next? Like, my brain instantly goes to like, all right, well, we've done this, and then the goalpost keeps moving. Like, I don't get complacent. I'm never sitting there being like, okay, well, like, I've done it, so like, I'm just gonna sit around for a moment. It's like, no, well, like, now that I've achieved that, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Like, hopefully one day, it's a pipe dream. Like, let's be on the cover of Vogue. Like, I don't know, but like give yourself these like weird, outlandish, crazy goals, because honestly, you probably will achieve it. And like, I'm not saying that in like a manifesting way. I'm saying that in like, just, if you have these kinds of goals and these things that you strive towards, they're the things that make you actually day to day do the mundane tasks that'll get you there.
Right. I've got a bit of a theory, right? Around this. You've dropped a theory into my head around this. But before I talk about that, you come across as someone, and especially because of your background in construction management and project management and whatnot, you come across as someone that is tremendously logical in many respects.
Yeah.
And you've just sort of poo-pooed the whole thing of manifesting. You sort of said, yeah, it's not to say it's manifesting. You said it's not all woo-woo with the inside out thing, right? So you feel like someone that is incredibly practical in your approach to life.
I know what I want.
What do you call it then if it's not manifesting?
I think I know what I want, and like giving myself goals, very clear goals. And those are things that I think about all the time. Like, I write down like the things that I've achieve today and the things that I want to achieve today and where I want my business to sit in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, and where do I see myself? And then from there, I break them down into bite-sized pieces as to like, all right, how am I actually going to execute that? So I think again, I like my brain works as like one big project, broken down into like little projects, and like I think that that's just always the way that my brain has worked, seriously. And even it's funny, I think that these kind of principles have been instilled in me from a really young age because I was a classically trained violinist for a really, really, really long time, since I was played from when I was 3 to 18. And the whole concept of practicing a musical instrument and being good at a musical instrument is practicing, is doing it over and over and over and over and over again and getting better and better and better at it and being prepared. And then at the end of the day, having something to show for it. Whether that's, performing in front of your parents, whether that's performing at a whole, concert, whatever it might be, there was just like always things that I was practicing and working towards. So I'm no stranger to putting in effort to execute reward either.
Did your parents have much to do with the input of the business?
No, not in terms of the business, but definitely just in terms of being an incredible support system to me. I feel I was always really understood by my parents. Like
Mm.
I was good at school. Like I wasn't dumb and I wasn't incredibly smart or anything like that. I kind of, like I did it. I did school and that was fine. But I was just really interested in certain things and I really loved, project management. That was something that I knew I was really good at, was literally just like working hard, putting my head down, applying myself and getting an outcome that I wanted out of it. And my parents just like, they always got me. And I think that that was something that was really great, was that I never had to explain myself. I never had to explain these big opinions that I had, or that I was encouraged actually to have conversations all the time with my parents around why I felt the way that I felt. And I tell you what is something that I think it was so important with all of this, is that every single day we'd sit down as a family and have dinner together around a table. And I think that that is like one of the most critical things you could ever do as a parent, is allowing, like, that was a sacred time where there was like no phones, no TV or anything like that, and you all just sat down and you just talked, and everybody talked about how they were feeling, how their day was. Sometimes there were mental breakdowns, sometimes there were, cheers and joy and like all of that kind of thing. But I think that that just like really created this environment where I always felt understood and I felt confident enough to always express my opinion, knowing that it was a safe space. And now I just feel like everybody's a safe space because I never had somebody evade that trust in my like inner circle, definitely.
Okay,
So
cool.
any parents that are listening to this, like, that's definitely one of the most critical things and why I am the way that I am.
Love it. Now, coming back to this alter ego thing, the theory that that's dropped into my head. I've got a huge thing around flow state, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
wondering whether you've actually had a thought about, when if you, first time you went and rewatched your Shark Tank pitch, for example,
Sure.
and you thought, far out, like, is that even me? Am I even saying that shit? Is that
Yeah.
me just like sticking it to them and all this sort of stuff, literally?
Yeah.
As well as metaphorically now. So I didn't need, no pun intended.
Don't worry, I like it.
Great pun. But have you reflected on it sometime at any stage and gone, like, that's me in flow? That is why potentially I feel it's not me, because of the fact that I don't have to feel or think or calculate. That's just me doing me.
It's just me, because like, and it's in me. Like, it's funny. We did a few weeks ago, we were at Sunrise, which is Blackbird's big festival for the year that they do. And it's like all VCs and business owners and just everything. It's just a melting pot of incredible talent that come to this thing. And my sister and I were doing a presentation at Sunrise. And I don't normally get nervous, but like a little bit of nerve is healthy, because it's like, okay, well, it means that I care, right? And so I woke up in the morning and I said to my boyfriend, I was like, I'm like, just a little bit nervous, anticipating what's it going to be like, and many people going to come, like, who knows? And he said the best thing to me. He was just like, Annabelle, like, even if you forget your script or like, whatever it is, he was just like, it's you, like, it. It's like in your head. Like, you literally, you exist as this business. You're not doing like a Cold War presentation for modern history. He's like, this is, you've got it. And I was like, yeah, that's very true. So yeah, there's so many parts of business that like I just know every single element of this business in the back of my hand. And like that Shark Tank pitch, I can still do that 2 minute intro. So the way that it works is that you come in, the sharks have no idea who you are. They've not heard of you, anything. And you walk in and you do a 2 minute pitch where the sharks are not allowed to interrupt you. Then you'll say a phrase that's like sharks, blah, 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 question mark, which was sharks who's ready to bond with your clothes like never before, is like what I said. And then it's 45 to 50 minutes of just like improv. Like they will ask you any question under the sun. You've got no idea what they're going to ask you. And they don't know how prepared you are and all of those kinds of things. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go on TV and I've got one chance to go on TV and know my business, like I need to be as prepared as possible. So I did put in over 100 hours into that pitch, went into that. We did like mock Shark Tank nights and things like that to make sure that we were as prepared as possible. And just like off the back of that, now I feel like I am so prepared to always answer anybody's question, whether it's even doing presentations and things like that. I'm like, I feel like there's a large portion of my business that I know that I can just do and like not really even think about too hard, which is a pretty good position to be in, to be honest, because then it kind of leaves that room for like creative questions and things like that that are kind of something that I've never heard before, which is always interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very it's very obvious when people realize that competence really does breed confidence, right? And if you're
Big
confident,
time.
then it opens the door to relatability from there on in, right? It really, really does.
Definitely. Definitely.
I love what you said before. Like my brain works as one big project, which is just
Yeah.
a fascinating concept. Um, you know,
It also
you
just like doesn't give me the option to fail, you know? And I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's the reason why people don't start a business is because they're like, oh, well, what if I'm wrong? And like, what if I put myself out there and it's embarrassing or if it fails? And it's just like, literally, it's simple to just like not give yourself the option.
yeah.
Just don't.
Just no,
Um,
yeah, because doubt really, yeah, doubt causes chaos and one's own demise, right? As said by the gentleman, and Guy Ritchie movie. So
exactly right.
I'm really interested, just quickly, to um find out more about you as a human, right?
Mm.
Because I'm guessing that you've upgraded the goon bag, right? Um,
Yeah.
you've upgraded the goon bag a little bit, a little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit.
Quite a bit.
What's give us an idea as to the working week for you, because
Mm.
I feel you come across as someone that I bet, well, without knowing, I bet that you are tremendously efficient with your time. Um,
Definitely.
um, but give us a bit of an MO as to your working week, because I can hear I can hear listeners in the back of my head going, "This chick's just a one-off. It's never not going to be me." There's all that stuff, right? Like how it's an us and them thing, right? And you're the
Mm.
them
Mm.
at the minute, right? So break it down, right? Let us have a look into Annabelle the human for a minute here, just so that we can create that relatability connection, so that people can see that you're just not all, it's not all just Annabelle
Not
the founder.
totally. But I think also, yeah, like people forget that I'm human a lot of the time.
I bet.
And even just like saying, my grandfather passed away and it's like, and then it's just business as usual though. It's like we're still getting emails from customers and all of these things, and I've still got, negotiations that we're doing and like life goes on. So it's like also that's like the very brutal part about, running a business is that if I don't do the work, nobody's going to do the work.
Mm.
So that's an interesting thing. But like for me, what's my everyday? I do a lot of BD stuff. So I'm trying to, there's a lot of cold outreach. There's a lot of networking to do with, trying to make connections here, there, and everywhere, or who in my mind is like a good stepping stone to somebody who I might want to meet or somebody who might be able to get me to where I want to be, whether it's a retailer, whether it's unlocking a new market, whether it's a new manufacturer, like whatever it might be, or even just like a seat at that table that I like really want to be a part of. That's something that I'm always strategizing. There's a lot of strategy. I go through our goals and like our OKRs pretty much every single week, and I try and understand whether there's something that I like still haven't made progress on that is a big goal of mine, and rethinking how I'm going to get there, because obviously the past week or 2 weeks worth of work hasn't got me any closer to that. So then it's like re-strategizing things on a really granular level. I'm pretty candid with myself when it comes to my own output and making sure that I am doing the absolute most. Also because like I can't live with myself if I feel like I've been lazy. But in terms of my day to day, I go boxing every single morning. I go up to Hustle Boxing in Potts Point. It's my absolute safe space. I just like love it up there. Again, everybody's just smashing out a workout. It doesn't matter who you are. Like you've still got to perform and train for the trainer, all of that good stuff.
Mm.
And then my boyfriend and I really love cooking together. So we're always, typically in the kitchen. I find that that's also just like a really good way as like this bookend to my day because I'm at home pretty much every single day is where I don't have an office that I work at. So if I'm at home, I could just like work all night and I'd be happy with that too, by the way. Like that sounds good to me because I enjoy my business. I'm just so passionate about it. It doesn't feel like work, but like that's not good fun for my boyfriend and my partner and even just my friendships and things like that. So I really try and make sure that I have things pretty much every single day that are like a bookend to my day to get me out of that work headspace. A lot of that time, that's either, going to dinner with friends or having a drink with a friend or, having people over and we're cooking a meal for them or whatever. And that's kind of like something that, again, is just like a very human experience. Like everybody's got to eat and everybody loves to be entertained and all of that good stuff. So I find that that's also where I recharge my social battery because if I'm at home alone most of the time, sometimes I go a bit stir crazy, definitely. And then that also just affects my productivity. I find sometimes having like clear boundaries of like when my day starts and when my day ends actually makes me get so much more done in those hours versus if I just give myself a 5 a.m. to a 10 p.m. kind of like whatever day. It's like, no, I know that I can get pretty much a full day's worth of work done, in a clear timeline. I'm not really doing much more if I give myself another 3 hours in the day, to be honest. So that also just helps with burnout. I think that that's something that I really want to try and prevent. And I also just want to make sure that my job doesn't feel like this relentless chore every single day. And the only way to do that is if I like end the day on a good note and on a note where I'm excited to start the day the next day. So that's what I like try and do to differentiate my work and then what I do in my happy extracurricular hours, I guess.
A couple of things with that. How does Annabelle handle the moment if because I was going to ask you how does Annabelle handle mistakes, but I think that's too simple a question because I know that your answer is going to be something along the lines of right, what were the lessons here to learn and da
Yeah,
da 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 da.
always.
You can ask that.
Yeah.
Um, how does Annabelle handle a moment that feels too big?
Mm. I think if things feel too big or like maybe just my brain is just like short circuiting and I'm just like not getting to the other end of it. Like my thought is just like not completing itself and I just like keep on short circuiting, which like does happen sometimes. It's when I know that I can consult my sister, I can consult my friends, my family, even having investors on board like Blackbird, like I talk to them all the time when it comes to just these things and just like giving their own advice. So I find that there's always somebody who's there to talk to. And people also like to be asked to help somebody. Like it's a compliment for somebody to come to you and be like, I've got this problem. I hope I'm now coming to you because I think that you might help me get through this. That's a huge compliment. I appreciate when somebody comes to me having a dilemma, as does probably somebody that's on the other side of that. Again, I've never had an original experience in my life. We're all the same in this kind of state, in this kind of instance. So for me, that's something that I just try and remind myself of that like people are there to help me, as I'm also there to help anybody when they need me. So that's probably the way that I try and do it. Again, that kind of comes into the imposter syndrome thing too, though. I'm like, people are there to help.
Yeah, look, and it sounds like your ego is so you're controlling the monster so well so that your ego doesn't get in the way if you do feel like shit. This
Yeah,
treadmill starts to run a bit fast here.
yeah,
I need someone to try and help us work this shit out. And I think that's where a lot of people, it's not so much their ego um prevents them from being wrong, their ego stops them from being right. Like, you know what I mean? It's sort of, it's that whole notion. So a lot of people see ego as, I'm not made, I'm made of Teflon, nothing ever sticks. But realistically, what ego does do, it just prevents you from being vulnerable to the point to being able, vulnerable enough to ask the right questions, right?
Totally.
Which I think is fascinating. I could keep talking to you for God knows how long, but I used to be conscious that you are a busy, busy individual. I can't say how much I've enjoyed this chat. I really can't.
Thank
It's
you for
been
having me.
absolutely phenomenal. One last question though that we ask everybody, and we're all a work in progress, right? And so as you are heading to the next evolution of success for you, what would you say is one thing that is missing from your game or your toolkit right now, that that you've identified that you're right, I know that I need to get better at this? What would that be?
Yeah. Oh
Apart,
God.
apart from walking up and downstairs.
Yeah, and apart from that, and apart from the housework that I'm definitely not great at, what do I like? Finances like freak me out. Like I'm good. Like I'll face the beast. I'm always good at facing the beast. But like my accountant's just like explaining things to me, and I'm just kind of like, you need to re-explain the definition of what that is because like I don't understand actually what you're talking about. Like I just find like the financial things just like mind-boggling sometimes. And not like when it comes to strategy and forecasting and paying bills. Like, no, it's just like actually the bookkeeping where I'm
Yeah.
like, thank God I have a great bookkeeper and a great team that I know I can also call them up and be like, what are you talking about? And they can actually sit down with me and be like, this is this and this is that. And this is how tax works in Australia, Annabelle. And I'm like, okay, like, thank you, and I think that that's something that I know is worth its weight in gold, having really good help in the areas that I know that I just like fundamentally probably won't understand very well forever. And it was never that interesting to me at school was like, like accounting was just like never something that seemed appealing to me. And I just know that it's not my passion. So like having people that are in your toolkit that aren't you and your brain is super, super important. Again, I'm only one person and like, I think this is why companies need diversity and inclusion so badly, is because people think so differently. People have different circumstances and things like that that bring such a different skill set into a team. And it's important to always have that. I think people try and pride themselves on being this like perfect figurehead of like, I'm the founder and I can do it all. I do all the finances and I do all the marketing and all the strategy and all the operations. And I'm like, that's not something to be proud of. To me, that just kind of means that you're gatekeeping and you're not actually allowing anybody in to help you, and they're probably going to be better at it because they're professionals and that's what they do every day. So that's something that I'm definitely not good at, and I'll be the first to admit it. And that's why I have such great people that help me on as consultants on the other side. It's worth its weight in gold.
Honestly, man, perspectives gives power. 100% agree with that. Annabel Hay, you absolute superstar.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're an absolutely brilliant human. You clearly got your head well and truly screwed onto your shoulders.
We try.
And it's just so good to hear someone who has managed to compartmentalize emotion. Which I think is really, really important. Not to hide it away or shove it in a cupboard until it gets too big and just explodes, but your ability to be able to turn emotion into a physical thing that you can like just pop to one side and then I'll deal with that in a bit.
Yeah,
Now I need to do this now.
totally.
Right. And I think that in itself is a wonderful thing for a lot of young people to be able to understand. And I think that the fact that you have managed to find yourself a vehicle that is so true to you, that has allowed you to then pull through an identity that you well and truly own, I think is
Yeah.
quite spectacular. And I think that is something that a lot of, and I don't want to turn this into a young versus old, but a lot of younger people that are really struggling to understand their own identity, perhaps need to understand that instead of trying to find something bigger than themselves outside themselves, just have a look to see what's bigger than themselves from within.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that, and we won't necessarily advocate going and looking down the bottom of a bagoon bag in order to find a good idea. But just by
Never know what you'll find.
yeah, exactly. Oh God. Just by chilling out and just chilling out on yourself and allowing yourself the ability to just the space to breathe and find your own vehicle for that identity, I think is
Definitely.
incredible. So, Annabel, hey, thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much, gang, for having a listen. I am absolutely certain that you're going to be taking a shed ton of notes. I certainly have. I think one of my pens ran out at one point, which is really a good sign. Team, on behalf of Annabel and myself, I'll make sure that all the links to both Annabel, the Shark Tank clip, which is being named as the best pitch on the show, which is quite phenomenal, as well as Clutch Glue. So if you do find yourself in a bit of in need of being in a stickier situation, then that is most certainly where Annabel and her product will come into action for sure. But team, stay safe, healthy, happy. Stay stuck to your clothes with Annabel's products, and we'll speak to you again real soon. Take care.